Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 14th meeting of the St. Mary's County Planning Commission. Our meeting this evening is being recorded for the public record. Any comments made by anyone present must be recorded as part of the record. Therefore, if you have anything to say, you have to come up to one of the microphones provided, or when given testimony by phone, you need to give us your name followed by your statement, name and address followed by your statement. Your comments cannot be recorded and placed in the record unless they are done in this fashion. You are to direct your statements, questions, and responses to the board only. We will direct them to the appropriate person for an answer. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Anyone testifying or asking questions during our public hearings will be required to take an oath, and we thank you for your cooperation. On our agenda this evening, after the approval of a couple sets of minutes, we have one public hearing, which is, let's do it this way. Zone number 21-0119 for the Wentworth Oakville Road, and the owner is Heritage Oak Farm Partnership, LLC. And the action requested is a review of a comprehensive plan amendment to change the land use from rural preservation to rural commercial, rural commerce, and a zoning map amendment to change the rural preservation zoning district to the rural commercial limited zoning district, followed by any new business and adjournment. This time I'll let the board members introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Summers.
Kim Summers.
William Hall.
Patty Robrecht.
Howard Thompson.
Joe Van Kirk.
Joe Fazekas. Merle Evans.
Okay, also with us this evening, let's see what we got. From the Department of Land Use and Growth Management, we have their director, Mr. Bill Hunt, their planners, Courtney Jenkins and Brandy Glenn, and the administrative coordinator is Kimberly Wood. Also with us this evening is the Assistant County Attorney, Mr. John Hauser, the Deputy Director at Department of Public Works and Transportation, Donald Mills, and our video media producer, the most important person, is Amy Carter, is here this evening. Okay. Did everybody have a chance to, let's see, we got two sets of minutes this evening. We have a set of minutes from January 24th. Did everybody have a chance to review those? Do we have any corrections or deletions? Do I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do roll call vote. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Fazekas?
I abstain for the second meeting. I for the first meeting.
Okay. Ms. Summers?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Van Kirk?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Robrecht?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Also in the audience this evening, I just saw his name pop up on Mr. Joe St. Clair. It's our alternate handyman, is always here, ready to roll. Okay, our second set of minutes this evening is from the January 31st meeting. Anybody have a chance to review those? Any corrections, deletions? Have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept them.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
Mr. Hall, okay. Okay, Mr. Evans,
Aye.
Mr. Fazekas,
Abstain.
okay. Ms. Summers,
Aye.
okay. Mr. Van Kirk,
Aye.
Mr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Robrecht,
Abstain.
okay, I vote aye. Okay, moving right along. Let's get a little bit of this out of the way. Okay, our one and only public hearing this evening is, as I said before, the Wentworth Oakville Road zoning map amendment. Anybody that will be making statements this evening, questions in the audience or doing any testifying, if you'd stand at this time and I'll get you sworn in. Okay, do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay. Courtney, take it away.
All right. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Planning Commission members.
Agenda item 1 is a comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment request, Zone 21-0119 for Wentworth and Oakville. The application seeks approval of a comprehensive plan amendment to change the land use from rural preservation to rural commerce, and a zoning map amendment to change the rural preservation zoning district to the rural commercial limited zoning district. The site is located at 41170 Oakville Road in Mechanicsville. The land use is rural preservation, and the zoning is rural preservation district. The regulations of rural preservation districts are intended to foster agricultural, forestry, mineral resource extraction, and aquaculture uses, and protect the land base necessary to support these activities. Low-density residential development in this type of district is permitted, subject to performance standards that maintain the rural character of the district in recognition of the fact that a full range of public facilities is not provided or planned. The farmer has the right to farm without being restricted by neighboring residential areas, and restricted hours of operation for farm equipment, restricted odor-producing fertilizers, or mandatory noise reductions may not be imposed on farmers in an RPD zoning district. The general intent of the district is to encourage farming without undue burden on the landowner. For the purpose of the rural commercial limited district is to accommodate existing small-scale commercial uses serving localized markets in the county that are scattered along the highway and in some cases clustered at intersections. Where such existing uses are compatible in scale with the character of the rural area and are devoted to a local market, their continued operation and opportunity for reasonable expansion is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. RCL districts provide for the continuation and limited expansion of such uses. Per the comprehensive plan, the Rural Preservation District is prime farmland, timberland, and mineral resource lands, agriculturally related industries, and limited non-farm cottage industries, and low-density non-farm residential developments. Characteristic of the county's rural character, which are to be preserved for a wide range of economic and aesthetic purposes. Acknowledges continued non-conforming commercial and residential activities on existing parcels throughout the district, but limits their expansion or creation. Per the comprehensive plan, rural service centers, such as Crossroads Commercial, Retail, and Business Development at Avenue, Budds Creek, Dameron, Helen, Oakville, Park Hall, and St. James that are traditionally provided for very localized services for the surrounding rural and agricultural area, designated and intended to offer limited opportunity for infill development to provide focused commercial nodes in the rural areas. For rural commercial limited, they are established areas of commercial use along county or state roadways that existed in the RPD at the time of the passage of the plan. They provide for continuation of commercial uses for the commercial development of certain vacant properties where the use and commercial zoning classifications predate the current comprehensive plan, and where commercial use or development would generally not alter the historic character of these areas that are located outside of a development district or town center delineated by this comprehensive plan. The public notice for the Planning Commission public hearing was published in the Southern Maryland News on December 10th, January 28th, and February 4th. The property has been posted in accordance with the CZO requirements of Section 21.1.3. Certified mail receipts have been received and have been entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 1, and the agenda was posted on the website on February 7th. The application was reviewed at the TEC meeting that was held on August 25th, 2021. The neighborhood of the subject property for this application request is Oakville, Maryland, along Maryland 235, 3 Notch Road, south of Mechanicsville. The property is located at the intersection of Oakville Road and 3 Notch Road with road frontage on both roads. The area includes a major transportation corridor with some existing commercial development. Nearby businesses include Boatman's Mini Market, East Coast Investments, Sutter's, Buckler's Auto Parts, and Ridgel Oil and Heating Air. And Oakville Elementary School is nearby. For the justification for the rezoning request, the subject property is currently occupied by the applicant. It is improved with greenhouses, planting beds, and other improvements to support the applicant's current business. There are several properties within close proximity with the rural commerce land use designation, and the application and justification letter from the applicant was included with your staff report. Per the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, 21.2.2 amendments to the zoning map or text of the ordinance, the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners shall each hold at least one public hearing on an application for an amendment to the official zoning maps. Such hearing may be held jointly at the discretion of the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. And then per 28.3.2, review procedures by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission shall promptly consider applications for amendment. The commission shall conduct a public hearing for map amendments and may conduct public hearings for all other amendments. Generally, within 60 days from its final hearing, the Planning Commission shall transmit its recommendations for approval or disapproval to the county commissioners. For the Maryland Department of Planning, they require to be notified at least 60 days prior to the scheduled public hearing for any proposed comprehensive map amendments. This application, staff report, and supporting documentation was mailed to the Maryland Department of Planning on December 13th, and the information was also provided to the town of Leonardtown, Calvert County Department of Planning, Charles County Department of Planning, and the Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland. This concludes staff's report and is entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 2. Mr. Longmore is here representing the applicant, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for me at this time.
Any board members have questions of staff?
I just
Mr.
have
Evans?
a quick question, if I could.
Yeah.
Courtney, under the applicable requirements, C, it states that, Maryland Department needs to be notified 60 days prior. But in the comments they shared with us, there was a time we couldn't get them to share Boo, and now we get 3 pages, which is better than not getting any.
Yeah.
But in their on page 1, they say that that's not a requirement. Is it a requirement or is it not a requirement?
It's a little confusing because they're saying
I'm confused,
they
so go
aren't
ahead.
the ones requiring it, the state is, but they're required to review what they receive. So basically, I mean, we're just following what the state guidelines are by providing them with this information and giving them an opportunity to send their comments.
Yeah, I guess what it says in your report is that it has to do with a zoning map amendment as opposed to a comprehensive
Right.
change.
Right. There has been some confusion. So basically, what they're looking at is more for the comprehensive plan
Right,
amendment.
that's what I was getting
Not
to.
the zoning map amendment.
Yeah, and so,
Since then, we've altered our staff report that goes to MDP
Right.
just to focus now on the comp.
yeah, and I guess I bring it up only because of consistency. With,
Right.
we're getting ready to talk about this comprehensive
Sure.
plan. And if there's any inconsistencies, now's the time to be doing that. So,
Right.
Okay,
Yep,
that's fine.
absolutely. Mhm.
Thank you.
No problem.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, Mr. Longmore?
Good
sir.
evening, members of the commission. Chris Longmore here on behalf of the Wentworths. Richard Wentworth is here to my left, your right, and to my right, and your left is Kenny Wentworth, I think, as I saw him walking up. We appreciate your time tonight. As Ms. Jenkins shared, we're here tonight seeking 2 recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for the same piece of property, a recommendation for the rezoning to be RCL zone, and likewise a recommendation for an amendment to the land use map that is part of the comprehensive plan for that to be rural commercial. So if we go to the next slide. So again, the summary of our request I just described, the property as mentioned in the staff report is located at 41170 Oakville Road in Mechanicsville. And again, we outlined the 2 requests that I just shared with you that are also listed in the staff report. If we go to the next one, this is the amendment process for the zoning map amendments. I know this commission has seen this slide before with some prior amendments. I've been here. Just for the benefit of the public, this is the process that any applicant must go through in order to get a zoning map amendment. My clients, as mentioned in the staff report, have submitted their application to Land Use and Growth Management, which then comes with a confirmation that it's complete and a review by the TEC agencies. All the agencies reviewed and there's no outstanding issues. And we're here at that step that's highlighted and underlined to be reviewed by this planning commission seeking a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. They would then hold their public hearing and reach a decision at some point in the future. So if we go to the next slide. This is an aerial view of the subject property. This is taken from the county GIS map. It is, I think, the spring 2020 is what it indicates on there. The subject property, you can see the blue dot kind of in the back of it in the wooded portion of it. The developed portion is toward the front. You can see that there's partial frontage on Route 235, which is right there, or 3 Notch Road, which is the dual-lane highway with the median. And then it also goes onto Oakville Road, where you can see that it comes off of that road, and that's where the main entrance is located. To the immediate, or to the right and lower right, that is a property that is Rural Preservation District right now, but has a commercial non-conforming use on it, where it has been treated as a salvage yard for some time. Just below that is Ridgel Oil, which is zoned RCL. To the north of this is Boatman's, and there's also an investment service, a commercial one on the slide that we'll show coming up in the zoning map slides. If we go to the next slide, this is the zoning map. This shows you the outlay of some of the RCL properties that are around this property. Again, you can see the subject property there kind of in the upper left with the light blue square around the yellow dot showing that's where the search was that we had done. This shows Oakville Road as well, a little clearer to show how the roads are set up there. Again, the RCL property in the middle of that slide, kind of on the bottom portion to the right, that is the Ridgel Oil site. Immediately to the left of that is where the Bucklers have their salvage yard and their business there. Then it is our property, and you can see there are also 2 RCL properties to the north or to the upper left of this slide. That's Boatman's, and that's the investment service business there that's right on the corner that I know is visible, that a lot of people know. If we go to the next slide, these are the current land uses. Again, you can see there are the properties nearby that have a land use designation of rural commerce. That's what we're asking our designation to be changed to. It is rural preservation right now, as you can see in the yellow with the other properties. If we go to the next slide. We provided this information from the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation. And I'll step back for a minute before I go any further on that. You know, I'm here with the Wentworths who do have this property actively developed. They intend to continue to run the property as it's being run. In the process of looking at doing some modest either expansion or renovation of the property, they were made aware that the zoning needed to be updated in order for them to do that. That's why we're here tonight. When you, in listening to the staff report, and I'll show some quotes from the comprehensive plan, the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Plan created the Rural Commercial Limited District for the purpose of allowing existing businesses that existed in 2002 when that zoning category was created to continue to operate, that were already located in rural areas with reasonable expansion rights. And there's language in here that I'll show you. We show you the SDAT sheet here, and Mr. Wentworth, either one of them on either side of me can share this with you in testimony if you prefer. If you look in the bottom left-hand side of this state tax assessment sheet. The primary structure on this property was built in 2001. It was before that 2002 rezoning. My client's understanding at that time is that the rezoning process would be zoned in a way where what they had was compatible and they'd be able to reasonably run and upgrade their business as needed. Again, they found out just recently over the last year or so that that was not the case to be able to take any further actions there, so that's why they're here tonight. But this does demonstrate that it was developed prior to two zoning ordinances ago, not our current ordinance, but the one before that. If we go to the next slide, this is the county GIS map with the 2003 spring map showing. Again, you can see the subject property in the kind of upper left portion. In the middle there, you see the two green roofs that we're providing that to demonstrate that the property was developed at that time, that shortly after the zoning ordinance was enacted, but this was the closest map to that time period that is available in the county GIS map. You can also see the property to the south that it had more activity at that time visible from overhead. You can see all the vehicles in the back. So even though the property immediately to the south or to the right of the property, as you see here, is zoned RPD for at least 20 years or so, it's been commercial use property. If we go to the next slide, this is just another aerial. We had pulled a Google Earth aerial photo as well. You can see, again, the subject property being developed at that point. This one is being provided so you can see some point of reference to both Boatman's Mini Market, the East Coast Investments, and Ridgel Heating and Oil. And again, see that commercial use right on the other side of my client's property. If we go to the next slide. So this is language from the zoning ordinance that talks about the purpose of the Rural Commercial Limited District. And I won't read it word for word, but you'll see that it was designed to accommodate existing small-scale commercial uses servicing localized markets in the county that are scattered along highways, in some cases clustered at intersections. We'd submit that almost word for word describes the property that we're here talking about tonight, and that part of the purpose of it was to allow their the continuance of their operation and an opportunity for reasonable expansion, and that the RCL district was created for that purpose. So this purpose clause, we think, shows that this property, both with my client's understanding and when they originally developed the property, as well as their understanding since they owned it, the purpose of this district, it's a square peg and a square hole, that this property would be appropriate to be zoned in this category. If we go to the next slide, there's the legal standard, as I know this board is well aware, is to show that there's either a mistake in the original zoning of the property or a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood. We are not arguing a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood. As you can see from those overhead slides, not much has changed there in the years. What we think those slides do show is that this neighborhood has always had commercial in this cluster, and that it would be appropriate for my client's property to be zoned that way. We think it was a mistake in the sense that it was probably an oversight in that zoning in 2002 when they created this new category to protect businesses like this, that this property was not zoned RCL then. My clients have not had any reason to go and look into the zoning until recently, and that's, again, when they discovered that they needed this zoning request. If we go to the next slide. This is an excerpt from the 2010 comprehensive plan. Again, we have two requests tonight that are really very similar but different legally. One is to change the zoning of it. One is to change the underlying land use of the property. This, I thought, was particularly important because it shows, again, the reason for establishing the RCL was to take established areas of commercial use along county or state roadways that existed in the RPD at the time of passage of this plan. That language is actually pulled from the prior comprehensive plan, and it refers toward the back of this, and it has similar language to allow commercial uses to continue and even to allow some new development, which isn't the case here on undeveloped lands. And it does refer back to that 1990 zoning ordinance. That 1990 zoning ordinance is the ordinance under which my clients had approval for their original development. That was the ordinance that was in effect until 2002. In 2002, there was the new comprehensive zoning ordinance that was enacted that's similar to our ordinance now, and then that was redone again, I believe, in 2010. So this language, we think, again, shows that what we're requesting here was on all fours with what the language of our current comprehensive plan has, and we believe that it was probably an oversight that this was not included before, and that by keeping this property zoned RPD, even though it had an existing use in the same area where other properties were given the RCL designation, that to keep it RPD would be inconsistent with the current comprehensive plan. So we think it'd be appropriate to amend the land use map for that reason. If we go to the next slide. Again, to kind of summarize our points and to highlight them, this property was developed with the existing uses for the past 2 comprehensive planning and zoning cycles. There are those other properties that we highlighted that had this designation, so we're not asking for a designation that other properties really next door enjoy and were given at the time of the 2002 zoning. Again, the properties on either side have those commercial uses. One of them is RPD and a non-conforming use, but it's clearly a commercial use. So we're not asking to either put a commercial use where it would somehow adversely affect rural or residential uses. And likewise, there is an existing use that they're not intending to change, although we're of course not here for a site plan approval tonight. They really just want the ability to continue to maintain and operate their business there and improve it. And then the language of the zoning ordinance, we think, clearly supports the rezoning of this property to RCL with that appropriate land use designation as well as part of our second request. So if we go to the last slide, I believe. So our requested action tonight is to submit a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to recommend the rezoning of this property from RPD to RCL, and that you likewise recommend that it be redesignated from rural preservation to rural commercial. And we believe that would make it more consistent with the comprehensive plans for this type of property. I have both my clients here with me. They're happy to answer any questions factually about that. They can affirm, I believe, the facts that I've shared here tonight, but if you have questions for them, they're happy to answer any. So that's our...
Does anybody have any questions of the applicant?
I do. This is for Chris, actually. Chris, the GIS map that you showed dated 2003,
Yes.
is that the only one they had? There are no more current GIS?
There were, if we can, and we can go, the first GIS map that we showed was actually 2020, showing it
Okay,
as it
fine.
existed today.
All right, that's fine.
The purpose of the 2003 was to show that this use has been on the property. Really, it was really there before the 2002 ordinance, but that was the closest aerial that's available in the county system to that 2002 time.
Yeah, and I was there today, and I was up there last week, only to look. I mean, I hadn't been up there, for a while. I mean, the property, you've done a very nice job, redoing the property, I guess, I mean, the buildings, the structure, all of these, all very, looks very nice. When we talk about modest improvements, what are we talking about on the property?
So we'd like to do a new greenhouse, is what we wanted to move a greenhouse from Charlotte Hall to
Right.
Oakville.
So the greenhouse, so is it, when we talk about greenhouse, is it like a high tunnel? Or is it more?
No, it would be a
Permanent.
greenhouse structure.
Structure.
Yeah, a building, right.
Okay. That's all I have.
And just for clarification, the slide that's showing now is the 2020 slide, so
Yeah,
that's the more
and
recent.
that's consistent with what's there today.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to public testimony. Do you want to see if there's anybody that's called in this evening? I know we don't have a Zoom. But
Planning Commission public hearing.
Ms. Wood, do we have anyone on the phone who would like to speak for the Wentworth Oakville public hearing case?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Seeing nobody in the room, go ahead and close public testimony. Anything else you want to rebut with there, Mr. Longmore?
No, I believe we've covered the topics we want to. It is a pleasure to be up here with folks that have been in business in this county as long as they have and have such a great reputation. And we just ask that you favorably consider our request tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Evans?
Yeah, this is really not for the applicant. This is more for staff again. I'm looking at these Maryland, this is the second or third time that in these notes, they're talking about combining procedures. And it refers here that they recommend that the county attorney take a look at it. Did you guys do that? Did you reach out to the county attorney with regard to doing these together? Because historically, we'd like to see things like water sewer category changes done at the same time rather than have two different, public hearings, that sort of thing. And I don't know that that's sort of the same thing, John?
Mr. Evans, John Hauser, Assistant County Attorney. We did take a look at this morning. We turned out that they have submitted this same comment at least for, I think, the last two letters, and we did not catch it until today.
Okay.
Best we could tell that what Maryland Department of Planning is getting at is just stating that apparently in their opinion that we are conflating the procedures for seeking a change or mistake designation on the one hand, and as best we can tell, just pursuing a general change to the comprehensive plan on the other. In our opinion, I think Mr. Murphy spoke at some length with Mr. Longmore today, that the process we have in hand right now is more than legally sufficient and what we ought to be doing for what the petitioners are trying to do today, which is seek a designate or have this particular zoning labeled a mistake or seek the change. I think what Maryland Department of Planning was getting at is saying that if we wanted to treat this as more just a general change to the comprehensive plan, then of course we have to go and look at the 12 visions like that.
Right.
That is not what we are doing here today. And I think just Maryland Department of Planning conflated it themselves. But we looked it over today. We don't see a need to change or revisit our procedures at this time, but could take a look at that probably when the comprehensive zoning comes up for review.
And that's what I was getting to. We're getting ready to do that, and for consistency purposes, as opposed to doing this, and it seems, if it works and we're doing it, and we're within our ability to do it that way, that's fine. But what I don't want to do is wind up with a lot of inconsistencies. Like getting these letters from these folks describing conflation, which is not a good thing. So I just, again, we spent a lot of time not getting any comments at all from the state. We apparently have a new person, and they like making comments, and so that's okay.
And we were kind of internally shrugging and wondering the exact same thing, because when you go in and look at the Maryland Department of Planning's notes, substantively they don't have any issues. They don't suggest we're making the wrong thing. They don't suggest that, the outcome is dispositive on which procedure we're choosing. They're just, so far as I can tell, saying we think you should choose one procedure, pick a lane, stick to it. In our opinion, the process we've got in place right now is sufficient to get the job done. And your recommendation in front of the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get in the way of anything. It's all fine. I don't have an issue with this. I just have an issue really with inconsistencies, I guess, or people trying to, muddy the waters. It seems to be some of the times just sort of a CYA thing, which I just don't appreciate that from the understate. But thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Okay. If there's no other deliberations, I think did a fine job. Fine business in a fine spot. It's what we like. It's a beautiful thing. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Do that.
There you go. Thank you.
In the matter of Zone 21-0119, Wentworth Oakville, having accepted staff report and having made a finding that the objectives of Section 21-2-2 and 28-3-2 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance have been met, and noting that the reference project has met all requirements for a comprehensive plan amendment and a map amendment approval, I move that the comprehensive plan amendment to change the land use from rural preservation to rural commerce and a zoning map amendment to change the rural preservation zoning district to the rural commercial limited zoning district request be recommended to be approved by the Commissioners of St. Mary's County.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Evans. Okay, do roll call. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Fazekas?
Aye.
Ms. Summers?
Aye.
Mr. Van Kirk?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Ms. Roebuck?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Thank you all for coming before us this evening. Good luck on your ventures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you
evening.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Any other business this evening? Don't think so. Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a second? Got a second? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.